Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. And hopefully, I see there were a lot of questions about, read replica, standby, and all. We'll see few of those in action. So hopefully, it'll probably once we see in action and when you will do it yourself, hopefully uh, things would be more clear. Let me share my screen and then add it to the stream. Cool. Okay. As usual, we start with the workshops. Here, if I just type RDS, now I know, Ashish did cover more than RDS, right? He was talking initially about SQL, NoSQL. We'll start with RDS and then we will see if we have time. I would like to show you about few workshops about at least DynamoDB, because that was one of the, key value pair or document DB. It supports both in DynamoDB, and it's quite cool. So I'll at least point you to the workshop so that you can do it yourself if you're new to NoSQL database world. But we'll start with the RDS, and like as Ashish mentioned, RDS comes in multiple flavors, right? It comes in SQL Server, Oracle, PostgreSQL, Aurora. So we have a lot of, uh, for Aurora also, like we have a full immersion day for Aurora, PostgreSQL, and there are many other workshops that we have. For this
Prasad,
purpose,
can you make it a little more zoom in so that it
yes,
would be much
yes,
better visible? Thank
yes,
you.
yes. Let me do that. Is this better? Hopefully, it should be good. So we do have, RDS
Yeah, this is
for
better. Thank you.
PostgreSQL, cool. RDS for Oracle, RDS for SQL Server Workshop, multiple. Again, they go to different levels, level 200. So um, yeah, level 100 is the least technical, and level 400 is the for the experts. 200 and 300 would be more intermediate. So actually, I come from a SQL Server background. I want to show you this RDS for SQL Server, and I did, in my account I did create. But problem with this would be that it would be incurring you cost a lot. SQL Server is costly because of the Microsoft SQL Server licensing, unless you are using a SQL Server Express edition. So right, so we will create few, but I'm going to just show you here in this particular uh, in create DB instance. This particular workshop says that go ahead and create uh, the SQL Server Enterprise Edition. Please do not do that unless you are willing to pay from your pocket. It's costly. If you want to try SQL Server, try the Express Edition. That's the free version. But if it will not be having features like multi-AZ and stuff, just to play around and create an instance, and then if you have SQL Server Management Studio, anyone coming from SQL Server background, SQL Server Management Studio is a client through which you will be able to connect the database. You can do that, and that pretty much would be kind of what do you call free tier based on the instance size you will select, but never go for this in your personal account. And that is why I would be preferring doing Amazon RDS for PostgreSQL workshop. And other reason why I preferred to show this is because obviously we have limited time right now to do, and it is neatly, kind of uh, divided in multiple sections. The foundation, if anyone is getting started, intermediate, and the advanced. And then we have PostgreSQL for developers. Uh, so like in the foundation, we will create RDS instance, set up the client, we'll talk on the scalability, that how you can create a read replica, how you can promote a read replica and perform the vertical scaling. There was a question on, how can we scale? So, and Michelle answered it correctly. Like, you can scale either it, horizontally by adding read replicas, or vertically, the writer instance by adding more capacity to it. And then, Ashish's analogy about, we will see it in action, that can we have a different instance size for a read replica? Yes. Can we have a different instance size for multi-AZ? No. So all of this, you will, obviously will not be having time to cover all of this because creating them, it takes 10 minutes behind the scenes. I did create few instances beforehand, so I'm going to show that, but you can always try these. But be wary of the cost. Though it is PostgreSQL, but it doesn't mean that it will not be costing anything. It will be costing it lesser than SQL Server, but yes, there will be some cost. So ensure that you have the budgets included. And yeah, and you're always trying it within free tier, or try with for 10-15 minutes and close it off. Cool. So let's start with this workshop. So in the prerequisites, obviously you can create a lab environment using the launch stack. I already created it, so we can go through this launch stack. So we have this, like a YAML file. We can go through the launch stack actually. So uh, console. So what I'm going to go to CloudFormation. So this is the launch stack for this RDS PG labs that got created, and then it has a nested CloudFormation. I'm not sure if if you guys have still like started learning CloudFormation or not. So CloudFormation, in like you can have multiple stacks into it. You can create. It's more like a good level of what do you call it, segregating your code. You can have separate stacks, and you can refer those stacks here. So in this stack, it simply like it's going to have multiple other stacks. But if you go to the each of the stack, it talks about exactly what is created. So whenever you do these workshops right on your own, always try and understand that what is the basic environment that has been provided to you so that you can do the workshop. More often than not, it'll give you the basic networking, like tricks, basic, like IAMs and so on, so that you're operating within a secured environment. So try and look into that to understand, like if you want to create that environment on your own from scratch, will you be able to do that? Go through those YAML files and understand what exactly it is creating. uh, Initially, if you are not able to understand YAML files, look into it like these in the resources section. And when you're able to understand this, then go to the template section and go through the template code to understand that what exactly it is, what is it is exactly creating. And that will be really important. And like Ashish is covering almost everything here in the basics, like in the VPC, he does talk about like internet gateway, public subnet, private subnets, and so on and so forth. So see how that actually works in action. Like if you're creating a database instance, you would not like to create it in a public subnet. You would obviously create in a private subnet, right? So if you see here, there are 3 public subnets that was created, and there are 3 private subnets that were created. And when you will be initiating, you will be initiating it in a private subnet, a database. uh, Public subnet will be mainly for your Bastion host or something through which you will be able to enter. So ensure that you are looking into all of this so that you understand that environment that has been provided to you, on which you are building on the lab. Cool. So that was the first thing. Now if I go back to, let me close the window so that we do not have too many things. This is SQL Server Workshop, not required. And yeah, this is the one. So we will use just these 2 tabs. This tab is our environment account in which we are working, and this particular is our instructions. So once you have launch, you will have this, and then in the verify lab environment, it says that you should be able to see the Cloud9 URL. So Cloud9 is a development environment through which you will be able to. Oh, I closed the development one. I did open it. So let me open it again. Open. So outputs, in the outputs you have Cloud9 URL. Through this you will be able to it. You can have a client environment through which you'll be able to connect the database. So I'm going to click and open it. So, and I keep it here. When it'll open, then we can look into that. No, so it says that it's open. That should be open within few seconds. That should be fine. Then click on next. In the foundations, it talks about the basics that we'll be doing. And in this particular lab, we will be creating a DB instance, retrieving the DB instance endpoint, and creating a secret manager secret. Now I have done all of that, but we are going to see how we can do it. So let me go to RDS. I'll click on create database. We'll also talk about a few other things. Come on. It's taking, okay, cool. Ashish did walk you through this, but we're going to look into it quickly for specific PostgreSQL for this particular lab that we are creating. And again, as Ashish said, we have two options: easy create and standard create. Go through standard create so that you should be knowing all the options that you have. So, okay, I'm going to go for PostgreSQL, not for Aurora Postgres. So we are looking into RDS for PostgreSQL, not Aurora for PostgreSQL. Okay, so in the PostgreSQL, the engine version, you can look into whichever PostgreSQL specific version that you would like. The templates, yeah, I'm going to use the production, but you can always use the free tier. Few of the options in the lab would not be available in the free tier, but you can try to, like do that, but it should be fine. Now, in the availability and like durability, there are three options here. We did talk about single DB instance. We did talk about like multi AZDB instance. I'm not sure if Ashish covered a multi AZB DB cluster new. So this is a new option that is coming has come, which creates two readable instances standby, a primary and two readable standby instances. So that's pretty cool. You can always try it out. There should be more option on that. Let me show the documentation to it. So there'll be a writer instance and there'll be two reader instances that were created automatically. So that's cluster. So there's a difference: multi AZDB cluster and multi AZDB instance. Cool. Coming back here. So right now I'm going to go for single DB instance, and we can give the names and your credentials, whether you would like to auto generate it, create it in the secrets manager, uh, or you can give your own password. And the instance size, again, if it's production, then mostly it'll automatically suggest you for a provisioned IOPS SSD. You can always go for general purpose SSD. GP3 is the newest version. And then yeah, storage auto scaling, you can auto scale the storage if required. And here in this dot connector EC2, so this is where like the infrastructure that is provided to you comes handy. Instead of using the default VPC, not the best security practice, you can always use this particular labs VPC that has been created so that your particular database is created within a secured VPC and can be accessible only from the required subnet and the security groups. It will automatically select the right subnet, and then the security group, you can select the security group that was created for this particular lab. Now, generally what I recommend is that always when you do this, go ahead, look into the security group, look at the settings that it has. Cool. RDS proxy, another like cool feature. It is a bit advanced, so I'm not going to go into it, but it can create a proxy so that you can like manage highly available database proxy. Like that's really a cool feature. And then there is something called custom RDS also, which gives you an option between uh, a database installed directly on EC2, that where you'll have access to the underlying to make any custom changes that you would like, versus a managed a database like RDS where you do not have access to the underlying. So custom RDS is where you have some options in between so that you can do it. That's and also get the management that gives the RD fully managed service. And then monitoring performance insight is really useful. There's another workshop altogether on performance insight, that how you can monitor the performance of your RDS databases and stuff. In the additional group, there should be only database option, your initial database name with what your initial PostgreSQL database name you would like to create, and then the backup retention period along with the encryption. Right. So this takes a lot of time to create. So what I'm going to do is that I already created, and I'm going to show that. So in the database instances, now I've created multiple databases, one for SQL Server Express Edition. It should not be costing me much. SQL Server Enterprise Edition, it'll cost me a lot, but that's fine. Then we have RDS, right? So few things that I would like you to notice here. Multi-AZ. As of now, all of them that I've created is multi-AZ, no, apart from the Enterprise Edition, which by default creates the multi-AZ always on, right? And if you see Express Edition, it has NA. So with Express Edition, you'll not be able to test multi-AZ because it does not support that. But it's cool for your, like development practices, normal things. Now, let's go. So if you see here, this is the primary and this is the replica. So what I did, and I'm going to show that again to you. I created the main instance the way I showed right now. Then after that, I created two read replicas, this one and this one. And then I promoted one of the read replica to become a standalone instance. And that's why this became a standalone instance. So let's do that. So I'll first of all, I'll show the, instructions here. Okay, before that, yeah, I keep jumping ahead of myself. Retrieve the DB instance endpoint. So whenever you create a RDS or instance, you will need an endpoint URL to connect to it, right? So this is the endpoint URL through which you'll be able to connect to it. So copy paste and keep it with yourself. I've kept it on a notepad. In fact, so yeah, I have it. So you'll be able to connect to this endpoint. Now, depending upon what client you are using, you can use that. Now, coming back here, then it says create an AWS secret manager secret. So you can create your own secret for this particular RDS that you have created, right? So I've used the master user and password, and through which you'll be able to create your own secret, and then you'll be able to save that, store that secret within the secrets manager, right? So for that, let me do, and I already did that, but let me show that. So I've created this secret PostgreSQL master user. So I've created a secret specifically for this. So now it says that set up PostgreSQL database client so that you'll be able to connect to this and do some operations. So for configuring the workstation client, it's going to ask us to do it through via the Cloud9. And I've already done that, but let me show you how exactly it is being done. So once you connect to your Cloud9, which is through the URL here, it will ask you to go through a window and new terminal. And in the terminals, it has created one, a command, and run the command after DB endpoint is known. So once you know the DB endpoint, you'll be able to run this command. And at the end of it, once you run this command, it will be able to get you the URL and password, and it'll be able to connect to that. And once you connect to that, it'll save all the environment configuration variables here. Now, if you are using some other client like a DB viewer to connect to PostgreSQL, even that is fine. If you prefer a more UI specific, and that will be easy because you have a endpoint that you can directly connect to. Just give the endpoint, give the port, username, password. You given it on your own, and you'll be able to connect to it, right? But if you want to do it via Cloud9, once you do it, for example, I am in the CLI where I'm connected to the database, so I can run this query, select current user, current database. It's going to tell me that I'm the, and this database. So pglab was the initial database that I created. So you can always use this, so just to show that we are able to connect to database through this. Right, let me see if there are any questions in the chat window. Can you please move the video of the Prasad towards right? Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, we can remove the video also. Uh, what else? Okay, cool. I think we are good. Parna, thank you for answering that. Now, coming back here and verify the DB instance. So that's what we did. We verified the DB instance that we are able to connect to it, and we have quit. Now, going back to where I was jumping ahead to creating the read replica to provide read scalability. Something that Ashish has beautifully explained about the asynchronous replication for the read replica. It's not, like real time. It's not synchronous like you have for multi-AZ. It's a asynchronous read replica. But how to do that is, let's do it. Let's create another read replica. So I'll select the main instance, click on actions, and there's a create read replica. Now, when I create read replica, it is going to create a RDS read replica, right? There is, if you see this option, create Aurora read replica, you can always create a read replica which is a Aurora instance also. Now, why this option would be handy is that, let's say if you have a customer who has been running Postgres on-prem and they're moving on to AWS and they want a more managed thing, but they're, because they have been, like always using PostgreSQL, they are not very sure about Aurora. So they can always move as it is their RD, like Postgres to RDS Postgres. But for the read replicas and to just to try Aurora, they can use create Aurora read replica so that they get more comfortable before making the full switch to Aurora if they would like, right? But let's go ahead and create a read replica. So the replica source is which database do you would like. So we have these databases which you would like to create a read replica. Oh, come on, it's quite slow. You can give any identifier, read replica. Now, by default, it has shown me the instance that I used to create the main instance. But if you would like, there is an option to change it to whatever you would like, right? So it can be different. So let's say if you have a very read heavy, first, let's say you have a reporting service. Obviously, running the reporting service on your main database would not be great, right? So your writer instance, have it separate and have your reporting service, which is querying the data again and again to just to create the reports, have it separate. And that's, let's say, a very heavy reporting service and runs, like very frequently. And you might want to have a, like a more powerful read instance. Then this is where it can help, or vice versa. In case if your application is very write heavy and your read instance, you want to have it, but it like it's used once in a day or something to create some report or something like that, you can use a lower power um, you know instance. And then rest of the stuff, it's again, like you can choose what you would like about, like all of things. Now here again, you can use it as a multi-AZ DB instance or a single DB instance, and the cluster that we talked about. And then once you create it, I'm not going to do that right now, then you will be having a read replica created. Now, if I go back, cancel this, and go here, so this is the read replica that was created. You can see it directly from here, right? It will have its own, what do you call, endpoint. So if I click on read replica here, it has its own endpoint. So your application needs to talk to this endpoint. Yeah. Now I have this endpoint, but for whatever reason, I would like to make this uh, the main, right? So let me go ahead and show it here. Read replica, we created it. You can change. Note that you can optionally size the read replica using a different instance tier than your primary instance. And then for the network security, obviously you would like to have the same destination group. So do all of that, and you'll be able to create that optionally if you are, like if you want to do all of that via CLIs, which is really good in case if you'd like. So this is the one. So all of those steps, it simply says that create the DB instance read replica, identifier, you provide the name, source identifier, you provide this, and then you provide the instance class, and rest all of this is different. If you want to change anything, you can simply add the tags for those also, and simply change those, add the options of those and change those. Now, promoting replica into a standalone instance. Now, obviously, before that, you would like to see that there is no replica lag. As you said, it's asynchronous, so there might be replica. So whenever you're promoting your read replica to the uh, standalone instance, always sure that all the replica has been done. There is no specific lag there, so that the data loss is minimal or zero. Now, to promote it, you can just click here, actions, promote, or you can obviously create a Aurora read replica also. But yeah, promote, and once you do the promote, you would be able to have it as a separate. So I'll show you here. So to create that, you can always right click here and click on promote. So it's going to promote, and how it obviously it will go into the modify stage, and it'll it will take some time. I think it took almost 15 minutes, or I was getting impatient when it was doing it. I did not know the actual time, but it took quite some time. But then it made it a like this was under this like as a read replica, but this became an instance on its own. Now when it became an instance on its own, I can always add a read replica to this. So I'll have to, so let's say you have a test database and you want to create another test database or something like that. So it's quite easy to, like backup and restore is always there. You can always do a backup restore, but if you want to do it in this manner, this is also pretty much possible. Create a read replica and then make it standalone. Cool. Now, going back here, perform vertical scaling. So this was about horizontal scaling, but let's say you realize that your main instance needs to be, like of a higher capacity. Then simply go to modify instance and change the instance. It will take some time, but it is going to, like do it. And you can always, like schedule is or apply immediately. You can always, like schedule it for the maintenance window, or you can apply it immediately and it's going to apply it. Again, we have CLIs. I love the CLIs because it's so handy. Again, it simply says that it was DB T3 medium, and you're moving from medium to large. So you simply say now instance class is DB T3 large, apply immediately, and boom, it's done. So just to show you here, modify, and then it'll give you all the options where you can simply go ahead and change it to whatever you would like. Keep rest of the things same and continue. Not going to do that, but that's how simple it is to vertically scale it. And horizontal scaling, we have read replicas. I know we are already over time. So yeah, in the foundational itself, there are multiple things that you can do. High availability, you can try your own multi-AG settings, right? And set up the high availability. Perform the failover. I love this. Like once you set up a multi-AZ and you're connecting to the multi-AZ endpoint, then you can perform a failover. What you can do is that you can take the main one and click on reboot and reboot with failover. So it's going to failover automatically to your, and then you in the logs, you'll be able to see. Let me expand this. The user requested a failover DB instance so that you are able to test the other one. Multi-AZ instance failover completed, DB instance restarted, multi-AZ failover started. So you can look into that. And then there are optional labs here. Now, data recovery, backups, automated backups, modify backups, SHAP shorts, try, like even if you're not trying them all because of the cost or, like time, but try and go through all of this, on the console. Obviously, you can go through the instructions here, but at least on the console, open those tabs, look into those options. What are they? Because then actually it helps, and look into these CLI commands, like how it can be done. Now, database upgrade. Now, we know that the version of the database keeps changing. Like, for example, we saw that, for example, DB engine version. There are so many DB engine versions, right? So if you want to upgrade your database engine to the latest version of whatever SQL Server, PostgreSQL, MySQL you are using, then you need to upgrade it. So, what are the best practices to do that? How would you be doing that? So, automatic minor upgrade, upgrading an engine version. So all of that would be here. So go through those. Monitoring the performance. Now this is where your performance insights, CloudWatch logs, alerts, everything, all of that comes into picture. And this is just the foundational part where you will be getting, like run. Then we have intermediate, where you have talking about RDS proxy or migrating to a Graviton encryption. And then we have advanced. Uh, so depending upon at what stage you are and what background you are, if you have been a database administrator, then obviously probably these things would, the foundation one would look like a good refresher, and then you would like to move on to the advanced one. But what I'll do is that I'm going to quickly show the
Prasad, I think we lost your audio.
Is it?
Yeah, now it
Hello?
is
Can you
coming
guys
up.
hear me? No.
Now I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. So the other RDS, like you have one specific RDS monitoring workshop where it talks about specifically performance insights, and that is really cool workshop. So, and depending upon whether you are coming from a PostgreSQL, Oracle, or SQL, go ahead and do those workshops. So in this RDS performance, so it's like through CloudWatch metrics to enhance monitoring, then the logs and the performance insights for RDS. So I would encourage everyone to like have a look at these. Like, again, if the question is about whether it is important for certification or not, because I saw someone asking about that. So probably, and someone probably said also that RDS is quite asked in the certification. Irrespective, these things are really important when you will be doing, or managing workloads on cloud, right? So the way we used to do the performance tunings for databases in on-prem versus the way we do in a cloud-native manner on AWS uh, is a bit different. So it is better that you learn about those things, and it comes really handy. And for DynamoDB, there is a workshop, Amazon DynamoDB workshops and labs. So this is also quite good. And but it might also become a bit advanced in case if you are new to NoSQL database. Uh, if you want to talk about generally all databases, then we have AWS purpose-built databases. Again, this shows level 400, but it takes you there gradually. So we're going to put all those resources in the resources sections, and then you will be able to look into these. But the lab 2 here is quite good. It shows how DynamoDB can be used with AWS Lambdas. Data can be pushed into Aurora. It's quite cool uh, workshop here. A bit advanced, but yeah, if you're up for it, try it out. That's all. I'll look if there are any questions on the chat. Nope. Cool. In that case, thank you so much. We will be sharing all of these resources, updating the resource sections in the BESA page
Yeah,
soon. And
we have updated these resources and we will put the link for the workshops so you would have access to it. Even if you do not want to do everything, at least check what options are available. As Prasad mentioned, like going through the information on like what options are there, what type of graphs are available, what metrics are available for me to monitor would help you to understand the aspect of it, and you can use those skills when your time comes. You do not have to know everything at top of your head, but at least know that these options exist, so when the time comes you would be able to utilize them at your own convenience. So that's what would be RDS. And the workshop you saw had different section, right? And I'm sure once you complete the whole, you would have a different perspective and a different confidence on AWS databases. So go through these workshops. I know cost can be a factor, so look for immersion days where we sometime run public free immersion days where you could go ahead and try out on a secure environment in a isolated shell into a sandbox environment, so you won't be having cost also on you. So that is a much better thing to try on. So look for immersion days. We would keep on informing you if we are delivering any immersion day. We would be happy to invite you there, and hopefully you would learn a lot on that. So let me also thank Michelle and Abhijit here. If you are on camera, Abhijit and Michelle, I would like to add you here so that we can see the faces who are helping us a lot on these things. So thanks, Abhijit. And we really appreciate you all taking time, and keep questions coming. Connect to us on LinkedIn, and we would be happy to answer as many questions you have. That's completely okay, Michelle. It's nice here too. All right, good. Anyone, any questions, any doubts, anything we could
Okay, well,
help you with, please let us know.
anyone who is in,
Yeah,
sorry.
WSS Pro. If not, what other resource we need to look? So we plan to talk about certification into a different aspect. So we hopefully will have a certification specific track. So don't worry on that. We will talk about certification separately. So thank you everyone, and have a good day. And we will talk to you
Hold on.
next week.
If
Check the
anyone is
resources
in
section.
London, if anyone is in London and wants a deep dive hands-on, then few of my colleagues are conducting this event. You
Yeah,
can simply
nice.
register with your yeah, company email address, and you should be able to attend it. It's an in-person event in London, a whole modernization workshop, bit advanced, but yeah, it'll be a good one. Mm. I'll not be
Yeah,
there,
means
but few of my colleagues are there and conducting it, and yeah, it'll be a good chance for you to even network with those folks.
thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And thank you, everyone, Michelle, Abhijit, Prasad, and everyone who joined. And we will talk to you next week. Have a good one.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you
Bye
all.
bye.
Cheers. Bye.